Hey guys, Boss Ramos, and today I'm going to be talking about the Miami Dolphins hosting the Los Angeles Chargers, who are 2-6. Dolphins are 5-3. This game will be on November 15th at 4:05 p.m. and it's going to be televised on CBS. And I'm not too sure about the map yet, but it's obviously going to be showed on some of the East Coast, some of the West Coast, and parts in between. We'll see. But that being said, we're going to get into the Espn matchup predictor. And real quick, I want to shout out my godfather for hooking that up. It's a nice little small field goal post, which is pretty interesting. And he put like a little Dolphins thing on it, which is very cool. Now, let's talk about ESPN matchup predictor. They have the Chargers at 35.2% and the Miami Dolphins at 46.5%, and a tie at 0.3. Now, second game that the Miami Dolphins have been favored to win this year. Second time as well, under the Flores coaching staff. Now, the spread is plus 1.5 for the Chargers, minus 1.5 for the Dolphins. Money line is plus 100 for the Chargers, minus 120 for the Dolphins. Over-under is set at 48. And very well it should be. Both of these teams are pretty much averaging about 25 points per game. So, given that should be the over-under. Now, we're going to talk about some season leaders. Justin Herbert has been the quarterback at the helm for the Chargers since Tyrod Taylor got inadvertently injured on week 2 against the Chiefs. Minutes before game time, he was getting a painkiller shot, and they punctured his lung. And ever since then, Justin Herbert has taken the reins as the starting quarterback for the Chargers and pretty much has run away with it. And he's been doing a good job. So far in the season, he's 181 for 269 on completions to attempts, 2,146 yards, 17 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's not looking bad, and he's only a rookie. He was a guy literally drafted right after Tua. Very tall guy, he can throw the ball. And a lot of people are comparing somewhat of his play style close similarly to kind of like Patrick Mahomes, which is quite a good comparison if you ask me. Probably one of the youngest rookies ever. One of the youngest MVPs ever, and one of the youngest Super Bowl MVPs ever. He's had a good start to his career and should continue to have great success in the NFL. And so for Justin Herbert to kind of get that kind of comparison, very good. Obviously, Ryan Fitzpatrick is still the Dolphins' leading passer, but that should change in about 2 to 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks for the Dolphins. Tua should surpass those numbers, but we'll just see what happens. Next, the rushing leader for the Chargers is not Austin Eckler. He was injured for some time, but we have, I believe his name is Joshua Kelly. He had 91 carries, 292 yards, 1 touchdown. Myles Gaskin has 100 carries, 387 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then receiving leaders, Keenan Allen is having himself quite a season, but Mike Williams is not too far behind him. Keenan Allen has 62 receptions, 651 yards, 4 touchdowns, and then Devontae Parker is the Dolphins' leading receiver. 36 receptions, 331 yards, 3 touchdowns. Now, injury report before the game. This is me recording this on Friday the 13th. Ooh, spooky. We have Trey Turner, the guard. He is questionable. Justin Jackson, running back, he is out. Tremaine Pope, running back, questionable. And Joey Bosa, defensive end, he's out. That is a big key to this Chargers defense. Him and Melvin Ingram can easily wreck Tua's day. And so at least having one of those guys out is going to be very, very big for the Dolphins' offensive line and blocking scheme. It's going to be very good. Now, the Dolphins have no players listed as out, besides whoever is actually injured and who's been confirmed out before the injury reports started coming out. Obviously, Preston Williams is one of those players. He hurt his foot. They haven't really disclosed what the injury is so far, but he is on IR, so it's pretty serious. I'm kind of upset. I want to know at least what happened to him. So Matt Breida, running back, he's questionable. Durham Smythe, tight end, he is questionable. And Jamal Perry, cornerback, he is questionable. And these are all reported on today. Now, the Chargers have 25.6 points per game. Dolphins have 27.8 points per game. Now, when it comes to points allowed, The Chargers are averaging 27 points per game allowed. Dolphins are averaging 20.1. And that's mainly due to a lot of our big wins against the Rams, Jets, and who else? 49ers, and the Jaguars. Those big wins really sets up the average not so crazy because, last week we allowed 31 points. But that was still a very, very good offensive team. And the Chargers, with Justin Herbert at the helm, are a very good offensive team. Now, guaranteed they're not going to score every possession, but they still put up points and they do good. They almost defeated the Saints. They've had a lot of close games. This Chargers team is a couple of plays that didn't go their way away from having probably a positive record, probably having a 6-2 record, if anything. So, some unfortunate things, but, it is what it is. Total yards per offense per game, 430. So, this is what I'm talking about. 332 for the Dolphins. Yards passing, 294. Dolphins, 235. 135 and 97 for rushing for both teams. Chargers 135, Dolphins 97. Now defensively, yards allowed 369 to the Dolphins 406. Passing yards allowed 251, Miami Dolphins 275. Rush yards allowed 118, Dolphins 131. Obviously, these averages are not very truthful to the team. Every given week is a different week. Every player is as they play each other, different. Everything's different. But nonetheless, in the last 5 games, the Dolphins have won 4 and lost 1. They lost to the Seattle Seahawks and then beat the Niners, Jets, Rams, Cardinals. For the Chargers, they've lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Saints. They beat the Jaguars, lost to the Broncos, and lost to the Las Vegas Raiders. Each one of those games that they lost were one-possession games. 38-31, 30-27, 31-30, 31-26. So each and every game was a one-possession game. And so that's what I'm saying, that they could easily be a 6-2 team, if anything. So it's quite unfortunate for them, but, that's how things roll. Now, the Chargers are the last team in the division at 2-6. Denver's 3-5, Vegas is 5-3, and Kansas City is 8-1. Then we look at the AFC East. Buffalo Bills are 7-2, Dolphins are 5-3, Patriots are 3-5, and the Jets are 0-9. So far, both teams have had some success with their rookie quarterbacks. Obviously, it hasn't looked so good for Justin Herbert and his crew, but that's because their defense is not holding up and winning these close games for them. Leaves, unfortunately, them in bad positions. Dolphins defense, though, have been playing very, very well and helping this team close out wins. It happened last week. It happened the week before that, and the week before that, and the week before that. So, in some of these games, leading up to that, before that, last week before that, the game before that, we played the Seahawks, and the defense was basically what cost us the game, besides Ryan Fitzpatrick turning over the ball and making the Dolphins not look so good. Something that Tua has been very good at so far is not turning over the ball as much. Obviously, he had that one lost fumble, but at the end of the day, following that, the next defensive drive, which the Rams were pretty much almost in the red zone already, we strip sack Jared Goff and take it back for a touchdown. So these are the things that, we don't really talk about much, but the defense has been coming up clutch for the Dolphins, and I continue to expect to see that happen with them this week. Not saying that they're going to force a bunch of turnovers. They're not going to be a strip sack that goes for a touchdown or interceptions and all this. But I feel like the defense will perform very well and help this team win this game. This is really what it's going to come down to, is how the defense plays. If the defense can limit this Chargers offense, because they're a pretty good offense, I've been telling you by what the stats say and what I've seen from my own eyes. I've been watching a couple of their games. I do think the Dolphins can win this game. And if I'm not mistaken, I had them winning by a touchdown or two, according to my game picks. Actually, barely by a touchdown. 20-26. That was my prediction, and I'm sticking with it. I think it's going to be a close game, but I do think the Dolphins come out on top. And something that I mentioned in the game picks was when they're talking about the Steelers and how they think they're not that good, even though they're undefeated at this point. I'm like, the difference between a good and a bad team is those good teams get to close out those games and secure the wins. Dolphins have been doing it, so I consider them as a good team. Steelers have been doing it. They've been closing out games and, making those close games. They've been coming out on top, and that's what good teams do. And that's what the Dolphins have been doing as of late, and that's what the Pittsburgh Steelers have been doing. Chargers have not been doing that, and I'm not saying they're a bad team, but I'm not saying they're a good team. They're kind of in between team. Their just record doesn't say so. They just haven't been able to close out these games, and that's what's really been costing the Chargers. So how are the Dolphins going to win the game? Dolphins are going to win the game by how they've been doing it this past couple weeks, putting pressure on the quarterback. Put Justin Herbert in situations that he is uncomfortable, where the defense is pretty much suffocating him to the point that he needs to get the ball out immediately, force errant throws. The rest is history. He can just create chaos and make him uncomfortable. If we can do that, the Dolphins will be in a good spot for success on defense, at least. Offensively, I think we're still without Myles Gaskin this week. So hopefully Matt Breida is good. He's questionable. I believe I mentioned earlier, yeah. He is questionable. If he can play, very good. Suvan Ahmed, he did really good last week against the Cardinals, and I expect him to continue doing good. But him and Breida are kind of similar players, so I want to see how that dynamic kind of works out. Myles Gaskin is a very good hybrid type of player. He has good speed. He has good power. Matt Breida, very fast. Suvan Ahmed, very fast. Jordan Howard, very powerful. So there's differences in the run game. Now, obviously, offensively, we need to protect Tua Tagovailoa. Obviously, not having Joey Bosa in there is good, but there's still Melvin Ingram, and he is a freaking beast. So, put a lot of focus on him, but do not let the other defensive linemen from the Chargers in, because those guys aren't no scrubs either, because they can bring the quarterback down if they really needed to. Now, I said offensively, I said defensively. Special teams, we need good returns, and Jason, just keep doing your thing, and we'll be doing good. I don't want to say much more about that because I don't want to jinx it. Lastly, the Dolphins win this week. It could be very, very big because we can move closer to Buffalo Bills, who are playing the Cardinals. And on my game picks, I predicted the Cardinals to win. And do I truly believe that? Not necessarily, because the Bills beat the Seahawks last week pretty soundly. Like, they convincingly won that game. And that's something about the Bills this year. They've been winning those prove-it games, and they've been winning it pretty good. Obviously, against the Titans and the Chiefs, it did not look so good. But those are the only two losses. Everything else, against the Raiders, Rams, Dolphins, they've had good games. So, what is to be said with that? If they lose, we'll inch closer to them. Then they play the Chargers, 49ers, Steelers, which is going to be a bad game for them. I don't think they're going to win that game at all. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. And then close out the season facing the Buffalo Bills. So, that puts us in a position to possibly win out the AFC East. Don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here, but, we love jumping ahead of ourselves. That's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a nice thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and click the post notification bell if you haven't done it yet. And lastly, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @ByAustinRamos. And fins up, baby.